All eyes now turn to new inflation data out this week ahead of the FOMC meeting later this month, with recession concerns lingering.
We are expecting inflation to decelerate into the balance of this year. And we're hoping that at least at the core level, peak inflation is behind us.
In the current system, yes, you need inflation. Otherwise, you get collapse. Kind of like how a shark has to keep swimming, otherwise it drowns. Kind of like how if you build this, extremely meticulous garden, you need to constantly maintain it against the force of nature that would just turn it into like a forest, right? So in this system we've constructed, it doesn't really work unless you have continuous inflation. You have to have money supply growing quickly enough to support all the debt. But I think the mistake people do is they take that and they assume that that's just a rule of the universe.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my video. How's your day going? I have been eagerly waiting for the CPI report since morning. Are you also waiting for it? I must say, we're living in very uncertain times. It seems like every day there's a new crisis that we're faced with. Today, there's a lot of talk about inflation, as everyone's eye is on the July CPI report and how it will affect Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I mean, even before the report got released, the market has plummeted down. Bitcoin dipped back under its key technical level this morning, trading amid a broad flight to safety as fears of high inflation deepen and financial conditions keep deteriorating. In this video today, we'll explore Lyn Alden's perspective on inflation and why she believes that Bitcoin can become the future of money. Also, before going ahead, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for the latest updates of the market. Let's now dive into the video.
So essentially, we're having an inflationary crisis, and it's hitting developed markets for the first time in decades. I mean, developing countries go through this regularly, at least many of them do. And now it's hitting developed countries across the board, some harder than others, especially Europe. Less so Japan, but really across the board. And that's mainly because commodities are a global market, and that's a big driver what's causing this, as well as supply chains. Basically, the idea that we need constant inflation in order to keep the wheels in the cart. And I think the problem is that the edifice we've constructed is so debt-based that they end up kind of being a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
In the current system, yes, you need inflation. Otherwise, you get collapse. Kind of like how a shark has to keep swimming, otherwise it drowns. Kind of like how if you build this, extremely meticulous garden, you need to constantly maintain it against the force of nature that would just turn it into like a forest, right? So in this system we've constructed, it doesn't really work unless you have continuous inflation. You have to have money supply growing quickly enough to support all the debt. But I think the mistake people do is they take that and they assume that that's just a rule of the universe. Whereas if you had a much lower debt system with a much sounder base, then you wouldn't need that, and realistically, you couldn't even get that.
Inflation is often thought of as an undesirable side effect of economic growth. However, according to Lyn, without inflation, our economy would be in danger of collapse. She believes it is necessary to maintain our current economic system. But I must say, inflation is affecting the crypto market very badly. After a little relief this weekend, crypto market again started trading in the red. This Tuesday, Bitcoin dropped back under 20K and is now struggling to stay above 19K. Now amid all this, Lyn shows confidence for Bitcoin and believes it could replace the financial system of the country. Let's hear her out. But before diving ahead, be sure to like and share.
I think you could have a free banking system based on Bitcoin, in theory, and it would have advantages over gold in the sense that banks could have proof of reserves. That's the theme that Nick Carter brings up a lot. I think it's a good one. And the fact that it's just inherently more faster, right? That it reduces the desire and the need to hold currencies that are backed by nothing, that cost nothing to produce. And the only way to enforce those ends up being basically force, essentially. That if you want to force people to hold a softer money, it takes some degree of coercion. But right now, it's not super needed because the trust level of these cryptocurrencies as a whole, especially, and then even Bitcoin. A lot of people can't differentiate between different cryptos. They don't know how Bitcoin's different than Dogecoin or different than Luna. A lot of people just kind of put them all into one bucket. And I think that over time and knowledge, if you do get that large enough understanding and adoption of Bitcoin, it becomes harder and harder to maintain other types of money.
The world of finance is ever-changing and complex, and Lyn believes that Bitcoin can surely become the best banking system. But she also understands, when it comes to cryptocurrency, there's a lot of mistrust. People don't know how one coin is different from the other, and most people put all of them into one bucket. But she has confidence that as more and more people adopt Bitcoin, it will become harder to maintain other types of money. This is because Bitcoin is a more efficient system. If you liked the video so far, be sure to hit that like button. So now the next question is, can Bitcoin support 8 billion people? Let's get into the next clip to know more about it.
I think the only way it works realistically is in layers.
Okay.
Which is how any financial system, any complex financial system is developed, right? So you have basically Bitcoin as the base layer, you have Lightning, and then you have different levels of custody on top of that. You could have things like Cash App, right? So it's Cash App can scale to tons of people, but of course you're trusting Cash App. You're giving up some degree of the permissionless. Then you have those things like federated Chalming mints that can be a on the spectrum between self-custody and third-party custody. You can have these kind of distributed custodies. So I think when you combine multiple layers and technologies together, people can kind of choose their own adventure on how far down the Bitcoin stack they want to go, or what their economic reality allows them to go, right? So someone with a lot of Bitcoin might want to go deeper on the Bitcoin stack, whereas a lot of other people might want to rely on those federated custody services or fully custody services, or just have their own kind of Lightning setup. I think we're 13 years into this. We're still premature in terms of imagining the world 50, 100 years from now, right? We can have these visions of what things happen, but I do think that cryptography has changed and a global network. The combination of a global network with cryptography, with proof of work, with difficulty adjustments has changed the game here in terms of what is possible with money. And Bitcoin is obviously the best version we know of on how to do that. So you can never really fast forward 20, 30 years and say this is what the world looks like. But I think that we've opened this Pandora's box of kind of recreating the possibility of hard money, commodity money, but one that, unlike gold, moves at the speed of light.
When it comes to the Bitcoin financial systems, she thinks the only way it works realistically is in layers. This is how any financial system is developed, with different layers working together to create a cohesive whole. Cryptocurrency is still in its infancy, and there's a lot of speculation about its future. One thing Lyn is certain about is, the combination of cryptography with economy with proof of work has changed the game in terms of what is possible with money. So what are your thoughts on all this? Do you agree with her that Bitcoin is the future of money? Will Bitcoin replace the central bank in the next 50 years? Also, do you believe inflation has reached its peak? Or more surprises are waiting for us ahead? Let me know in the comments below. That's all I got for today's video. I'll see you all in the next one. To get notified, be sure to hit that bell icon. And don't forget to subscribe and like. Adios!